As the saying goes, one is none. So having only one DHCP server in your environment is possibly an issue, because if that one DHCP server goes down, then all of your DHCP clients may stop working. One of the ways to overcome this is to set up a split scope, where you share a scope amongst two different servers, and then one server hands out half the addresses or a portion of the addresses, and then another server hands out another portion of those addresses. So let's try that out. For this, we need to open up server DC1, which I've done here, and log in as an administrator. By default, when you're logging in as an administrator on the domain controller, you are logging in as a domain administrator. Once we logged in, I went ahead and opened up PowerShell and ran install Windows feature DHCP and include the management tools. Sometimes this takes a moment, so I wanted to get that done before I started the recording. Once that's done, let's go to Server Manager, Tools, and let's open up DHCP Management Console on Server DC1. Here under Server DC1, again, we see the little red arrows saying that the scopes and server is not authorized. I'm going to right click and say authorize. Go ahead and authorize this server, and then I will refresh and I see green check marks. As of right now, we have no scopes. However, we do have an active server. Now that that's done, let's go back to DM1 and we will look at our existing scope. Right now we have one server and a pool of 1 through 100. What we want to do is right click on our scope and go to Advanced and Next. There we go. Which additional server do we want to add in? Well, we want to add in server DC1, add, and it looks for it. Let's go ahead and choose, no, excuse me, server DC1, browse, okay. Check. There we go. Okay. And OK, and next. On this page, we can specify how much of a split we want. We can see down here it has currently an 80-20 split. What we actually want in our scenario is a 50-50 split, so that each server takes 50% of the requests and the other, one server takes 50% of the requests and the other takes 50% of the requests. Because we have 100 IP addresses in our scope, well, 50 IPs to one and 50 IPs to the other. Next, this gives us an opportunity to change the delay. We previously looked at that. We're going to leave this to 0 and 0 for both servers. Next, and finish. And close. Now that the split is done, if we look at the address pool and I refresh the page here, we will see that not only do we have the existing address ranges, the prior exclusion that we had set up, we now have an exclusion for addresses 51 through 100. So the second half of our address lease, of our address pool is now excluded from distribution by server DM1. Quick note, the lab guide is off by 100. The lab guide incorrectly says 10.99.150 through 10.99.200. In reality, we had previously set this up as 10.99.1 through 100. So they were assuming 100 above. So this is on server DM1, right there, server DM1. We can see that our exclusion is 51 through 100. So the second half is unavailable to us. Now, if we go to DC1 and I refresh, we will see under IPv4, we now have a new scope that is available to us. And if I look in here underneath our address pool, we will see we also have the full range for distribution, but then 1 through 50 are excluded from distribution on DC1. So half the range is excluded on one server, half the range is excluded on the second server. With that being said, let's go into server SA1 and let's try to get a new IP address. So ipconfig/release. We want to give away the IP address that we currently have before ipconfig/renew. Specifically, we want to release the address before we renew because a release will give it up as opposed to just a renew. We'll try to simply refresh or renew the one that we currently have. And we can see, yep, we got 10.99.0.6. So not too exciting in this scenario. No. Just realized I missed a step. Let's go back to DM1. And I actually want to take this scope and right click and deactivate it from DM1. And then go to DC1. Their scope was originally deactivated. Let's go ahead and activate that, which we should have been doing all along. And again, I will release and then renew. And now we should get something that was 51 or above as far as the IP address, which is coming from DC1. There we go. 10.99.0.51. And of course, we can look into address leases, refresh, and we will see that right there. Now that we've gone ahead and proven that our split scope will in fact work, let's go ahead and delete it. So on DC1, I'm going to right click the scope, delete, and yes, and yes. On DM1, I will go in to the exclusion for the 51 through 100, right click, delete, yes. And then on SA1, again, I will release and renew. And that is the end of our activity.